Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first ever live webinar of ECA Tamil Nadu Territory. I am Aditya Tapadia, a member of Early Childhood Association National Core Committee. I also run a preschool chain by the name of Jumpstart Preschool in Pune. It gives me a great pleasure to moderate today's webinar for Tamil Nadu Territory. We have four panelists with us today. Let me introduce all the esteemed panelists. Our first panelist is Miss Usha Ramakrishnan. She is a consultant for emotional intelligences and wellness. Our second panelist is Ruchi Mohanta. She's an experiential educator and a clarity coach. Our third panelist is Shweta Krishnan, a special educator and honorary secretary for Madras Dyslexia Association, Chennai. Our fourth panelist is our very own Dia Mehra, a director, a little more preschool, and ECA territory head for Chennai. I welcome all the panelists to this webinar today. It gives me a great pleasure to present the topic parenting during COVID times. So, as we all know that parenting has, or rather parenting, everything has changed, emerged in last 60 days. All definitions of a teacher, definition of a school, definition of probably everything is resetted, and we have come back to square one, where we are now redefining every aspect possible. Classes are now redefined from a physical class to an online class. A mother who was probably just a mother and making sure that all the things are taken care of is now also being an educator. A teacher who was generally present only in a school is now in a living room of a child, and child is interacting with his teacher every day. So all the definitions have changed, and in this entire definition, parenting as a definition has also changed. A lot of teachers have also become parents, parents have become teachers, and there's a lot of mix to this whole thing. To discuss this whole situation, we have got four panelists with us. I would request Usha ma'am to please throw some lights about what definitions have changed and where are we heading. And to you, Usha ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here today, this afternoon, and talk on a topic that is so topical. And honestly, it's not much because parenting is something that's been there right from the ages. So, first of all, let me start off by congratulating all the parents out there, mothers and fathers, to say you're doing a very important job. Appreciate yourself for all the good things that you're doing. It's a tough job, so do appreciate yourself. Take care of yourself, your body, mind, and spirit while you work on this. Now, what is parenting? Everyone says, what is parenting? Parenting is basically understanding your child and enabling. This is really a labor of love. And if you look at it with the right lens, the COVID-19 can be yet your most exciting opportunity to get to know your child better, to enable him better. Because all this development, you are the center of his world. Every time you speak to him, you talk to her, you interact with them, you're enabling new development in the brain. And the first 5 years, the brain develops rapidly, 80%. You'll be surprised. And all this happens only through play. And when he's staying with you at home in a secure environment, in a loving environment, probably the best. So, parenting really means understanding, enabling your child in all areas of development, which is physical, his motor, his communication, his social, his emotional, and by far the most important in today's world is his values. And all this gets done when they are very young, naturally through play when you're with them. Aditya?
Yes.
Should I go
Hello.
ahead? The next speaker?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. You can continue. We can hear you.
Okay. So what's so special? So like I said, if we are going to do all this for our children 24/7, What we need is we need to have our batteries charged. We need to feel fit so that it doesn't become a problem, rather an exciting, creative challenge. So take care of yourselves, all you young, beautiful parents. Each of your children are miracles. So take care of your physical health, eat well, exercise, make time to sleep. You'll say it's very difficult, but believe me, you have the potential to sort yourself out. After all, you're doing a full-time job otherwise. So just take care of yourself. Only when your battery is charged will you reach out better to your child. The child needs you at all times. So if you're better charged, you will reach out better. So what does your child need you for? From morning to evening. Because he needs the simplest thing. We complicate life so much. He needs your love unconditionally. Just like you needed your parents. He's not asking you if your room is looking nice, if you're well dressed. It doesn't matter to him. But if you sit with him, open out a book, and read to him with enthusiasm, and put an arm around him, your job is done. Then there will be no behavior problems. You finish that and say, baby, now I'm going to do some work. You say, okay, mama. The clingy, whiny behavior. You haven't given the children what they want. Wired into our anatomy is the need for all children to receive love. And when that love is not given, they find, they yearn, they have all kinds of problems. Imagine if one day the Lord said, all right, I'm upset with you, I'm switching off oxygen supply. Love is like that. So point one, you have all the ability in you to look after your child. All your creativity will come out this time. The first point the child needs is unconditional love. Unconditional love. Not I love you when you're a good girl. Oh, you ate your cornflakes nicely, you're a good girl, I love you. Unconditional means the way your child loves you. He's not saying you don't look at someone or you don't get money like someone. He says, I love you, period. The minute you do that, smile on the face, the spring in the water, and the child is happy. When you say, oh,
totally agree with you, Usha.
Yeah. Sorry?
And at the same time, we also know when we are dealing with age group of early years, 0 to 6, we also have the primary years, and then we also have kids at a place who are pre-teens and teens. And to deal with teens, the probably unconditional love sometimes doesn't work. So we have an expert, Ruchi, who can probably tell us what are the different techniques we should probably use with pre-teens or children in that age bracket.
Unconditional love with the right treatment at each age. Absolutely. Love is unconditional always.
Yeah. Thank you, Aditya. Yes, there is a little bit of a difference between your little ones who are easy to hug and who listen to you, as against teenagers who wouldn't want that kind of a physical affection coming from your end, especially if it is boys. They really don't want that. So having teenagers and having tweens, as they are known, that is pre-teens, in the house can be slightly different than having the toddlers in the house or the little ones in the house. Now, let's just keep in mind two basic requirements of teens in their prime years is they want social interactions, not with the adults all the time, but they want it with their own peer group. And the second thing is they have a lot of energy in them. So how are we going to help them to expel this energy? And how are we going to ensure that they get enough time to socialize with their friends? So what I suggest is that we create these fun activities with our teens such that they do these little exercise with us, whether it is doing stairs in the building, whether if you have a little block and you can do a little running, trying to do some physical exercises, which could be aerobics, something fun to engage them, so much so that they are able to get this energy out. And the second thing that we have to keep in mind is how do we fulfill their social commitments? So now, thanks to technology, there are a lot of ways by which you can get their friends all together. they are doing it. So giving them that time that they can socialize with their friends, whether it is creating a Zoom call or whether everybody comes together. Now they have these watch parties where they can all log in and probably watch a movie together, but giving them that little space where they are able to interact with their friends. These are two extremely important things. The third thing that I would like to stress over here is to sit with them and create a schedule. Having a schedule with them where you negotiate. You do not give them the schedule and say, okay, you know what, I want you up at 7 o'clock, lunch has to happen by 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock is what you're going to do in the evening, which will be fitness with me. You have to sleep by 10 o'clock. No, we cannot have this the same way as we used to have earlier. Now, with the teens, it is important that we negotiate. We come to an understanding that works for them and works for us. And we can tell them that this is the amount of screen time we want you to have. Now, when would you like to have it? Asking them. So it's slightly different when it comes to teens. So you need to keep in mind they need to exercise. They need that extra physical bit of energy to be spent. And socially, they need to be connected to their friends because that's where they draw all their energy from. And thirdly, creating a schedule, but not a schedule where you are telling them what to do, but it is a schedule which you come together and you put together through negotiation, through a little bit of compromise from your side and a little bit of compromise from their side. So it's little different with teens, but yes, it's doable.
Thanks, Ruchi. Shweta, what would you recommend parents these days? Especially there are a lot of special kids also all around. What are your recommendations that how should parents be engaging with kids, especially with any LDs?
Yeah. See, I think I'm going to, it's not very different from what Usha ma'am or Ruchi ma'am spoke, but I think unconditional love goes a long way. It's very important for us to, especially more so with children with special needs, especially children with learning disabilities. They are going to be, they are going to have a lot more energy that they haven't expelled. They're going to be missing out on their routine, which is very important to them, and to keep them going, to keep them, continuously on a loop. So I think reassuring them that, this is all going to end one day is a very important thing that we need to do. As for the academic worry that most of us special educators have, even when we have a long weekend, we're very worried that the child might regress, the child might, go back in the progress that they've made. I think it's very important for us to sit down as parents, to sit down with the special educators and chalk out a little schedule for your child that you can do at home with minimum resources, things that are easy to do, things that are possible to do. And the same can be done with any other specialist the child may be seeing, maybe an occupational therapist. There's so much of little exercises that can be done around the house itself. So that would be a good thing to do. And the most important thing that I want to tell parents with children with special needs or children, with learning disabilities or any of this is that you are already doing a lot for your children. So please don't feel inadequate. Please don't feel that, you need to do everything that everybody is doing on social media because you're getting so much of input. You have friends sending you videos of what they did with your kids. You have Facebook, you have Instagram. So please don't take that pressure on yourself. You will need to prioritize what is important for you and your child, what your child needs the most. There may be 5 things that the child might have been doing pre-COVID times, but it's not possible to do all those 5 things. So what is your child's topmost need? Address those and take your situation into consideration. You may be a full-time, both parents may be working full-time. You may not be able to do all that is on social media. So it's completely okay to choose what is important to you and to work with that.
Perfect. Thank you, Shweta. Now I come over to Dia. Dia, you run a preschool, and now all the roles have changed. We as educators, we as teachers have now redefined ourselves as someone who will come into their living room and probably conduct an online session. How do you think parents and teachers would look at this entire collaboration going forward? Yes, Dia, over to you. If you can unmute yourself, that would be good.
Is it fine? Am I audible?
Yes, perfect, Dia. You're good to go.
Yeah. So going forward, it is going to be virtual learning for all of us. All the schools have moved to e-learning because we are not looking at schools opening in the next few months. So all the learning will move to online learning. That is, especially in the preschool category, we would call it as a home-based learning. Is because the roles are reversing right now. The teachers are going to be the guiding people over there, the resource people over there, and the parents are going to take up the teaching right now. And we want parents to actually, it's another role added up to parents post June because everybody are moving into online course. But coming to early childhood, parents assistance is very important for an online class. They need to be around and help the children to be engaged with what we are doing and everything. So moving forward, we will have classes, online classes, some offline activities, some online activities, and we'll try to bring in the curriculum to them. And don't worry too much on the academic part because once the school opens, we are there to catch up with whatever we have missed out. So I would say, parents, please don't worry about that right now. At the moment, what you can focus on is, spending more time with your children in terms of being getting them involved with all your house life skills and house chores. This is the best time to develop their life skills, so please involve them in all the things that you're doing at home, be it simple cooking or like folding clothes or cleaning the house or whatever it is. It's okay if they're not perfect, don't worry about that. The point is to just get them involved and have a memory created for them that after the lockdown, they will all remember these things that they have done along with their parents. So don't worry too much on the academic part and spend quality time with your children. That's what I would tell parents right now.
Thanks. Thank you, dear, for your input. Coming to what Usha ma'am was saying, that we should be absolutely at this time not getting panicked and giving unconditional love to our children. Most of the time, what is happening, especially in nuclear families where both the parents are working, uh, and both have to work from home, there's so much pressure because we don't have maids these days. We don't have any family support which is available, and parents have to do everything at the same time. Husband is also there, child is also there, and sometimes we happen to lose the control of the whole thing. And even after this, we need to give child enough attention. All these online schools are asking that, you know what, a parent and a child should sit together, then only we can conduct these online sessions. It becomes very overwhelming at times. And and in these times when it is overwhelming, it is also very important to know that probably going forward, hybrid way of learning is going to be the way, where one way of learning, one way of communicating, or any concepts which are communicated to a child can probably happen at home, seeing a YouTube video or an online stream. And probably for a physical interaction or education or any of the physical needs, a child might come to school. Right now we are having a school of 5 days, sort of a school. Probably looking down after this post COVID days, there might be a chance of we having school for 2 days a week or one day a week. We don't know. So we don't know what is lying ahead. So what is your thought on this, Usha ma'am? Usha ma'am, you need to unmute yourself, sir. Yeah, we are now able to hear you, ma'am. You can go.
Are you talking about school or about children learning?
About children learning. So
well,
children,
actually, if you're talking about children learning, the most active learning is when they discover for themselves. In many ways, this freedom to create your own schedule, to have more time, to be more flexible, often creates new pathways in the brain, which makes more creative thing. So coming back to parenting, you play such an important part here. If you provide the child with age-appropriate equipment, whether it's books or toys, and enable that, the child can learn very well at home. How does he learn? Let me give you one example. Suppose the parent says, "Yeah, I've got you the most expensive toys, go play." The very way that I say go play and spend so much time when you've done so much, you're giving a message of, I've done it for you, now go do it. That is not priority. Children don't need expensive stuff. Children will learn geography, they will learn their basic science, math, and everything. The younger ones in the kitchen. Every time they sieve, they pour, they do everything. They learn first through experience, then on to language, then on to pictures, then on to symbols. So if an adolescent needs to have a good foundation, you're getting that opportunity now, and I would request all you wonderful parents to just get to know your child, sit with him. Do you know the 5 things he likes the most? Do you know what he's scared of? What makes him happy? And point, if you don't listen to our children, we're busy telling them what to do. What have you drawn? Circle? No, not like this. Draw square. Square? No, draw triangle. He might be creating a new shape. Creativity comes in this way. Creativity can happen in the home. Creativity can happen with very inexpensive things through the ages. All they need is a guiding hand, support, some amount of technical things, and a parent who truly cares. By the way, children can sense. You can fool anybody but your children. They look at you and they know whether you really want to know, or you're making, or you're just saying it. So this is a very good time for the best in parenting is for emotionally intelligent. You self-manage, you become self-aware. You're able to say, hey, I'm losing it. I'm losing my temper. And if you tell your child, my little one, my Kana, I'm getting upset, she'll come and pat you and say, don't worry, Mama, it's okay. Whereas your voice is, I'm going to be nice to you. You've raised your decibel. You've created Ashanti in the house, so you need to go out for happiness. Happiness is with you, inside you, with your children. What a joy. Ask people who have children with special needs. Every activity of your child is a miracle. And
absolutely agree.
A labor of love. It's like you're doing it for your children, not someone else's. What should I do? Don't worry, you all are also intelligent. Press the Google, press a button, all your answers are popping up. So parenting is not what you're doing, parenting is how you are doing. Self-check, self-regulate, you'll be thrilled about it. And give yourself a pat on the back for every good thing you're doing. You'll find your child coming back to you. You'll find it easier to handle them. No whining, no problems. Don't structure too much. They're free. And when the time comes, the schools, lovely schools like Diya's and Aditya's, will take them back to the fold.
Perfect. Thanks, Usha ma'am. Like, I would now like to come to Ruchi. I would like you were talking about negotiating a schedule with your children, understanding how to balance what is acceptable, what is negotiable, and what is not negotiable. There are certain things which have to be done. There are certain things which can be avoided. Can you also tell parents? Can you also give certain tips to parents which are completely avoidable or are against parenting principles? We definitely know that there are a lot of things which parents can do, but in this current situation, are there certain things which are clear no to parents which we can follow?
Yes, Aditya, like I always tell my parents who come to me for consultation, choose your battles. What is the end behavior that you are seeking for your child? Concentrate and focus only on that behavior. So, for example, if it is important for you that your child gets a little more oriented towards his schedule and he starts following time in a particular way, then concentrate only on that as your goal. In which case, if he is sitting with a messy room or if he is not helping you out with certain chores or any of that, we have to ignore them for a while, because your goal is very clear that right now I want him to start focusing on waking up on time, sitting down to study on time, eating his meals on time. So the entire focus here is now on time. So choose what you want to do with your child in terms of what is the behavior that you want to modify, and concentrate on one thing at a time. Otherwise, if you're trying to constantly rectify them for everything, you are not going to get any result. So just choosing your battles on which one do I want to focus on. You could even make it like a weekly thing, that this week in my mind I'm saying that I'm only going to concentrate on, can I get his schedule on time, or can I get the focus be more on being a little conscious of how I am spending my time. So that entire week, let go of a few other things. So clarity, having clarity in what is my focus or my goal for this week, and we can take one thing at a time, is good enough. So that will really help you to move towards a more camaraderie in your relationship with your child, and also having conversations with them instead of not constantly correcting them. Oh, you did not put this away. Oh, you did not put the thing. Oh, your room is always in a mess. Oh, why don't you pick your things up? Oh, why don't you come to the table? These are not conversations. They also seek conversations. So whether it is discussing economy in the changing times, whether it is discussing businesses and how they will now have a new way, or whether it is an online presence, or whether it is a complete change strategy, they are very, very intelligent. And what they seek out is a few adult conversations. So please indulge in some of these conversations, making sure that you are not correcting them all the time. They don't want to be told all the time that they are wrong in one way or the other. So we have to be careful about these things when we interact with them, because remember, again, they seek a lot of social network from them, and since their friends are not there all the time, they are looking for some more interesting conversations. It could also be sitting down and watching a few of their shows, because you know the lingo they use and the lingo we use, the language we use, is very, very different. So sometimes you don't even understand what they're saying. So a good way would be, can I watch a show with you? Or if they're fond of a particular sport, can you tell me a little bit more about your sport? So showing interest in what they like doing is a great way to connect with them, rather than always trying for them to do the right thing. There will be a time they will settle down. They're also going through their own hormonal changes and everything else. So let's take up one thing at a time. Let's ensure we have more conversations with them, and conversations are not always corrective. Conversations are when we both agree that we're both on the same page. There are no judgments involved. There's nothing that says you're right, you're wrong. And the third thing is showing more interest in their activities. It could be their shows, it could be their games, it could be what kind of the sport that they enjoy watching. It could be showing something there. So we have to try and make that effort from our side. Yes, Aditya.
Perfect. Ruchi, I really like a lot of points. First point was to choose your battles. Then the next point was that take one thing at a time, probably define an objective for this week, and then start working towards it. Basically, working collaboratively with children rather than just being no parents, saying you cannot do this, you cannot do that, this is not what you're supposed to be, come to the table. I really like, and that's probably the way the parenting is moving towards, where it's more of a collaborative parenting, where a child and a parents both sit down together and start thinking, okay, you know what, we want to achieve this sort of milestones in coming week or coming month. And to achieve this milestone, probably this is the content what we need to absorb or download. And when we have this sort of a conversation with a child would be more matured to know that this is what I'm expected to do. And he himself more responsibly starts taking more content or absorbing more content inside. Yes, Shweta, what is your view on this?
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to sort of, when the question you posed to Usha ma'am about, teachers coming into the living room and how the role of the parent and the teachers sort of merged. See, the one advantage in this whole thing that parents with children with special needs have is we've already been doing this, right? We've already, the parent is also the teacher. They if I may say that they have sort of collaborated already a lot more with the teacher, because a lot of the learning, it's not like, they go to school, they come back and then it's done. There's lots of things that the kids need to follow up with at home. So the involvement of the parent in the child's life in terms of exactly knowing what's going on is a lot more. So that role, parents with special needs have already been doing this. Parents with children with special needs have already been doing this, where they're already exploring multi-sensory ways of teaching our children. We're already doing, multi modes of teaching. We've been using technology a lot more. So I think that is already in place as far as children with learning difficulties are concerned. And I completely agree with Ruchi as well when she said, pick your battles, choose what you want to accomplish. That's the same thing with with our children as well. Choose what you want to accomplish for, and really bite much lesser than you can chew. I won't even say bite as much as you can chew. Bite lesser than you can chew. You can always take a little bite, if after you've accomplished what we've planned, because loading the child with too much to do and over scheduling is going to only overwhelm them. So little steps, baby steps is the way forward. As long as we are in this situation, that's the way forward. Aditya, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, Dia, thank you so much, Shweta, for your input. Coming towards Dia. Dia, we all have been talking that now a parent and child have to collaborate together to make sure that we are able to achieve the target set or achieve the milestone set. How do you think teachers in school will play a role in assisting parents to make these sort of decisions? Okay, so in Pune, there's this new concept which has started, and I'm only speaking for Pune. I don't know what happens in Chennai, but they have a tri-party conference where a parent, teacher, and a child sits together, and they probably communicate that probably this is the milestone we want to achieve in the next couple of months, and to achieve this milestone, we are now going to play this role. So moving forward, how do you think our school's role, because you own a school, how do you think school's role will evolve in helping parent to achieve this?
So just a second. So moving forward, like I said, it's all going to be e-learning. Coming to parents' assistance, like I said, a middle school or a high school can do their sessions without parents' assistance on their own. But when it comes to early childhood, they do need parents' assistance. So when I said that the teachers are going to be resource people, which means that almost all schools would be doing this, that where the curriculum has to be redesigned for e-learning. Basically, our curriculum was meant for physical class, but now we have to redesign this to cater to the online classes. So mostly if you see for a preschool, it's always skill-based learning or experiential learning, and this experience can be done at home as well. So we will be having sessions, pertaining to one skill at a time, and we will be giving activities to parents. And before we go in for the session, we can always do like an orientation for parents, where we'll try to make them understand what to look forward for that week and what are the kind of resources you might require, because we all are aware that we don't have all the resources at home. So keeping that in mind, what is available at home, we could plan sessions, we can talk to the parents beforehand, we can understand from them what are their challenges. Because again, when it's a Zoom call, it's a particular time, not necessarily all children and all parents are ready at the same time. So we could alternate it with a Zoom call, online session, sometimes with an offline session. And another important thing is that not necessary that at any given point, all children are ready for a online session also. So if there is something like that, I would say the parents do not force the children at that time. Give them some more time to adapt to this, because this is all completely new for all of us. Do not push it on them. And also for the teachers and everybody, when you start the next day session, please don't ask them, has everybody finished their work? Show me your artwork paper and things like that, which puts all of them in pressure. So do not start like that. The whole point of this online session is we don't want the learning to stop. We wanted to stay connected with the children, and we want to go online and offline is because the social part can be taken care by the online session. They can meet their friends, they can chat, they can meet their teachers, they can connect with them, talk to them. So this will give them some kind of assurance that everything is fine. So when they want to transfer from home to school, it's going to be easy that time.
Perfect. Great. Thanks. Thank you, Dia. Now moving towards question and answer section, we have Shefali Khatri, who has a question for our panelists. She's asking that there have been a lot of times in previous years where we have been talking about screen time, that too much of screen time is not good, and we should be able to restrict the screen time. In the current time, in COVID times, where all classrooms are moving to virtual classrooms, how should we be able to balance this? So, which of the panelists would like to take this question? Okay, how do we balance the screen time? Initially, we have been telling that too much screen is not good, but right now, what amount of screen time is good, and what should be the relaxation time?
I think that's a really tough question because I think even as adults we are struggling with controlling our screen time because you're on work, you're on the computer, and then to relax you're watching web series and everything, right? So I think the rule of thumb would be, at least that's what's been working with my kids, is that I've just added an hour of recreational screen time to what is otherwise allowed for them. Right, I've added, so they are otherwise allowed only 1 hour of recreational screen time, which I've made 2 hours because these are extraordinary circumstances. And I think, like Ruchi ma'am said, it comes with a caveat. You have to tell your kids it's only for this period. This is not going to last forever. So that's what works. But I think it's important to make the distinction between recreational screen time and what is educational in terms of what is required for them from an academic perspective, what the school demands. And I think that's what, personally as a parent, that's what I'm dealing with right now. That's how I'm dealing with.
Great. Ruchi, what is... Yes, Usha ma'am, sorry.
I thank you. I mean, both your points are so well made. I would think the parenting point here, how does it come in? Two very important points. We are teaching our children to self-regulate. So just like we are all self-regulating in the COVID, we all want to go out, we all want to have fun, if we are pulling ourselves back. If we communicate, like you all said, with an open thing and tell the children, I know it's tough on you, I know it's difficult, let's have a schedule and this will be for 1 hour or whatever. You make a part of this child and this child will feel proud for what she's doing rather than saying this is it and you do it. You will surprise children learn the self-regulation, which is a great important thing for life. That comes from the home, from the parents, and that means that we also self-regulate a little bit. You can't say you do something and we do something else. So that's where the catch is in parenting. You've got discipline.
Absolutely, Usha ma'am. Children probably learn more than what they are seeing than what we tell them. So we are the role models to our children and probably new teachers.
Absolutely.
Yes, Shweta, over to you.
No, that's precisely what we'll have to. It has to be they model everything that we do, and with pre-teens, they will also question everything that we do. With teens and pre-teens, so what you preach, you'll have to act that way as well.
Yeah, actually, the way they say is you can't really practice what you preach, but you preach only what you practice. So if you want them to do something, you better be doing it yourself. Just would like to add a little bit here in terms of, we know that the screen time is now here to stay, and to some extent it is a necessary evil. But how can we minimize the damage? I would suggest that make sure that the screen time or wherever the child is using the screen, it's a well-lit room. You ask them to stretch a little bit from their chair so they're not glued to it the whole time. Also to make sure there is optimum distance between the screen and where the child is seated. So these are little things by which we can, ensure that it is not straining the eye too much. And they have enough breaks in between. Like, for example, when my daughter's school had put their entire schedule online, the teachers ensured that they had a 40-minute class and there was a 20-minute break in between. So the kids could get up, they could walk around, they could have a glass of water, they could do something so that it was not non-stop. You're not in front of the computer the entire time. You are taking that little break. And I think it's a good idea to do that, because helping them stretch, move around, rub your eyes, wash your face, at the end of the day, we're really worried about how it's going to be affecting their eyes and their health in totality. So what can we do? We ensure that the room is well lit and they get enough time to stretch in between, which can also add. It's here to stay. So it's like a necessary evil. We just need to reduce the damage as far as possible. Yeah. So I think that could help.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruchi. The next question which is arise is, how should we ask our children to divide the household chores? Because right now there are a lot of chores, and what is the ideal thing what we should ask our child to do, and what is something which we should not ask child to do? What is the optimal balance which parents should do? Ki, say you can help us do the plates, but you should not sweep. Or I think that's the question which the person is wanting to ask. Is there anything? What is the optimal balance for asking children to get involved in day-to-day household chores? As
Okay, so
parenting suggestion.
All right, I'm going to quickly go towards the tweens and the teens and say that yes, it has to be again negotiable, because you ask them that this is the list of chores and you give them a choice and you say what are the ones you would like to do and what are the ones that I will help you out with, or these are the things I would like to do. But what's also important is to bring in variety. So when I say that this is what are the list of chores for the next 5 days, these are the ones assigned to these people, or the dad is going to do this, the mom's going to do this, the children are going to do this, and after 5 days review it, because you know what happens, sometimes the same task can get boring, so give them a chance to do something else. And one thing that I really like is the way Tom Sawyer used to play up. So whatever chore you really want them to do, make it look like the really fun thing to do, and then they get attracted to doing that. So I'm saying this more from a tween and a teen perspective, but yes, Usha ma'am and Shweta and Dia will be able to say, how do you handle it with the younger kids?
How probably the negotiation skills don't work with the preschoolers. So Shweta and Usha ma'am, how?
For the younger kids, I think some of what you'd like to achieve in terms of motor skills, some of what you'd like to achieve in terms of fine motor skills is those you can work into the chores that you assign to them. This is like, how we mothers sneak vegetables into their food. So, so that itself can be part of learning for them. There's so much that they can, selling peas is something that kids will enjoy doing, especially the little ones will love it, and they open it and it jumps around and, going and picking, and it's so good for their fingers. It gets them ready, it's so therapeutic for them in terms of how much work it gives to their fine muscle. So kids who are going to go into, using crayons very soon or using pencils very soon, this will be a good thing to do with them. So I think whatever task you choose for them, try to make it interesting, like Ruchi said, make it a game, make it collaborative. They love it, especially young children love to play mom or love to play dad. So you make it interesting, give them a little outfit for it, make them feel important, maybe a little appreciation chart, a little star chart, something that, encourages them to sort of take pride in what they do. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Shweta. Should I move on to the next question? The next question is
I want to add something to this.
Yes, Dia, please.
Today, parents are extremely conscious parenting they're doing. So I would say that don't be worried all the time. Am I doing perfect parenting? Is my child doing anything productive every day? And it's not necessary if you put them in online classes and things like that. Only they can learn and things like that. There is so much to do at home as well, I feel. So, just get them involved in whatever you're doing. Basically, the parents don't have so many times they want to get done with their work and move on. So the patient level is a little less, but just give them a chance to explore and teach them the life skills. This is the best time to teach them how to set their own clothes, how to have their own bath, and, to help their parents in laying the table, clearing the table, things like that can be taught for them,
Just like
Yeah, thank you.
one
Yes, Usha ma'am.
children will teach us the right attitude to work. The minute there's a load, it becomes work. For them, it's play. They'll take a broom and sweep. And like you said, who's going to help me so nicely? Everybody will come. And in fact, you get a good attitude into it. And typically, their own things like putting away their little, what they do in the school, put their chappals away, put their things away. When you eat something, put your plate away, age appropriately. The thing with children is if you watch them, they will show you what they can and can't do. So the role for us is, are we watching our kids? You don't have to do it straight. Naturally, they do. They see their father clean their plate, they say, I also will. Otherwise, they have something. So a lot, the joy of work, actually, some of our kids have if you do it. And we praise them. Praise is very important for all through life. Anyone who's done a good job, good for you, is invaluable. That is a parenting point.
Great. Thank you, Usha ma'am. Over to the next question. We have Shelly and Shweta who are asking, saying ki the online sessions, how can online sessions be more creative and interesting? My little one refuses to sit in front of the screen. So basically, the child is hyperactive or more active, and he refuses to sit in front of screen. A normal classroom, he might have continued sitting in the class, but with this online tutoring, he's not able to sit. So what is the solution for that?
Can I go on then? Aditya, can I?
Yes, Usha ma'am, you can go.
How old is the child? How old is the child? Preschooler?
1 second. I will probably that will take more time to reply because it's relaying from Facebook.
Okay, this is a,
but I think it's earlier. So let us say between 0 to 6.
Preschooler, like Dia said very clearly, sitting in front, you presume the child has the attention to hold it. For him, it will be like someone watching a Turkish movie or something. It doesn't make sense. And what doesn't make sense to them, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to sit. This is the next development. So they need to learn in actual. So maybe Dia will suggest to them the very activities, how the parents can do practically. And then they'll pick it up. So no forcing is very important. You don't learn only that. Learning is in many ways. So the same activity can be shown in 100 ways. And that probably schools like yours would. And parents themselves are so creative today. I find each parent more creative than the other and has the most lovely ideas which they can discuss with the school and take it forward. But no forcing.
So another thing which we recommend our parents in our school to follow is probably mirror a small screen into a big TV screen. I think the first rule of the entire home that what we recommend is child gets the right to the entire big TV. So if a teacher is probably presenting it on a big 52-inch TV, ergonomically also child is probably placed right. He's not staring on a small mobile screen. He's looking at a bigger screen, and that really helps a child to calm down and sit at one place. So that is what we have been recommending at our school. Yes, Dia, you had anything on that?
Sorry, I didn't follow. Can you repeat that, please?
Do you have any more points? Dia, Shweta, Ruchi, any more points?
No, I think there are some questions in the panel, chat.
Okay. So the next question is from Sanskriti Shah. You can see it on your screen. Who would like to answer that?
Shall I take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
How can we create an environment? Very nice question. Congratulations. To improve communication skill and improve conversations at home. Every moment can be an environment. You get up in the morning and you ask the child, what would you like? What are you eating? Suppose you're having dosha. Says, are you having dosha? How is it? Is it sweet? Is it salty? Describe all the tastes. Describe all the temperatures. While you're bathing the child. In fact, that's the best. While they're bathing. Is the hot water hot? Is the water warm? Touch and tell me. What do you like? So when you ask the child questions or leave an unfinished thing, they will answer. Another very good way is when you play with them. Children will start a play activity. If we describe the play, their conversation grows. So they have a lorry and a car, and they say, car, lorry. So you say, oh, the car is going through the lorry. They'll say, no, something else. And conversations grow. So if you leave a gap, then they fill it up. through their play, you tell them what they're doing. Children love it and they will extend their conversation. Sleep time is a good time. Food time is a good time to go. When you're cooking in the kitchen, to tell them what you're doing and mixing and stirring. Would you like to mix? Would you like to stir? As the child listens to the word, he connects the word with the action and his vocabulary grows, and he will start talking back. Plus, if you want his communication to grow, we've got to listen. We've got to listen, full attention. Whereas if they say, Mama, Mama, you'll say, okay, okay, and we go on, then you'll not listen.
Yes. Over to you, Ruchi.
Okay, so that's great. A lot of little talk you can have with your little ones. But when it comes to your tweens and your teens, let's be assured that communication will be in monosyllables for a while, until and unless they open up. So one thing I recommend is, instead of constantly asking them questions and asking them, so what do you think about this? What did you do today in class? How about sharing your stories? And the minute you open up to the child, it puts them in a safe place where they know, okay, you know what, my mom and dad also went through something similar when they were in their teen years. Even they were probably anxious. They wanted to know what was happening with their friends. So once you talk about your feelings to them, chances are higher that they will talk to you about their feelings as well. And like Usha ma'am said, listen, listen, listen. So please put away your gadgets when you are talking to your children. Give them your complete 100% focus. In case there's something important you want to do at that time, excuse yourself, ask for their permission, finish your work on your gadget. It could be an email, it could be a message, any of that, but show them a lot of respect. So when you open up first, you are making them comfortable to start talking from their side as well. And the second thing, like I had also mentioned earlier, talk about subjects that interest them. And these have to be third-party things. They do not have to have an agenda of always sending out some morality with it, which says, you know, let's talk about this. You know why? So it is so important for us to be on time, keep our places clean, make sure we eat nutritious food. Not all the time it has to come with some learning. Sometimes they are just conversations without a hidden agenda. And we need to keep that in mind. As it is, it's going to be less with your tweens and your teens. So let's make it more meaningful. Let it be something that they are interested in and not what you want to talk about. Yeah, I think Shweta wanted to.
I just have one additional point to add is to create a physical environment where you can see. In the sense that create a time of the day where the family sits down. It can be over a meal, it can be over a cup of coffee in the mornings, or allot a certain time where everybody is around without their gadgets. Now that we're all home, I think nobody has the excuse of, I need to be away, I have this meeting. We're all home, we're all stuck together. I think this is a good time to start those conversations. It's a good time to, you have your schedule for the day, all of us have work that we finish, but meal times are great times to do this, to sit down and have those conversations. So I think it's also important to create the time and space to enable these conversations.
Great. Shweta, I'm moving on to more of a technical question which 3 parents have asked, that how can we make sure that the writing skills can be taught to the child at home with parents, and how there are 3 parents who are really wondering that the writing skills teaching through online class is becoming difficult. So what is the technique of getting teaching skills online?
See, writing skills, if they're mechanical writing, in terms of, depends on the age of the child. If really young children, you're talking about 3, 4, 5, I think a lot of work for their fingers is what is going to enable them to be able to write. I think that's what we need to do. We need to enable the pre-skill first. So we have to do a lot of, shelling of peas, playing with chapati dough, sorting out pulses. Those kind of things is something that parents can do at home that will help children be better equipped to start writing. But as far as the creative part, how they're going to work the curriculum in, probably Dia will be able to shed more light on that.
Yes, Dia, would you like to talk about writing skills? How it could be communicated
So
through
for
online?
writing, yeah, so basically for writing, we need to first work on the fine motor skills. Be the child is 3 or 4 or 5, unless and until the pincer grip is completely developed, you can't look at the child writing comfortably. So I would suggest that parents to give more activities towards developing their fine motor skills, developing the pincer grip, where automatically it would give some confidence to the child to move into writing. So before that, if you pressurize, maybe you will also fail and even the child would fail. So let's work it this way and see how it works for you.
Perfect. Perfect. Moving on, I have a question which is asked to me, saying that you have been mentioning that put a bigger screen in the living room, but my child is 10 years old. And even if I put a big screen, he looks for initial 5-10 minutes and then he shifts to games or takes selfies. And how should we handle that? So probably for a 10-year-old, I the only answer which I feel is the content what we are giving online is not good enough or interesting enough for him to actually concentrate on that content. We as parents need to find better content which will keep our kids more engaged in what they are doing. It has to be more challenging. There has to be a curiosity which has to be developed. And that would be my answer. If a child is not looking, I think we need to rework about which curriculum we are asking him to do. Whether is that the best right online class we are looking out for him, or do we need for a parallel outside class for him? So that's my call on it. Would anyone like to answer that, or should we move?
Need a little bit of an orientation or a preparation to what this is, right? So, giving them some reading material or something hands-on to do on the topic before they have to sit in for a class may help them. That may prepare them to orient towards what they're going to receive. I think that's something that can be explored, and I think 15 to 20 minutes is the average attention span anyway. So beyond that, you need to give them a break. So maybe a little bit of activity on the screen, and then maybe they get to write or do something hands-on, and then they get back to the screen. Otherwise, expecting a 10-year-old to sit in front and pay full attention for 40 minutes is not good. They are going to get
Perfect.
disrupted.
Perfect. Thank you, Shweta. Now moving, we are almost are done in this webinar. Moving towards our last closing statements. Usha ma'am, to start with you, what would be the closing statement? What would you like to tell parents, teachers about parenting in COVID times and post-COVID times?
For parents and for teachers, I would say that a lot is in our attitude. If you look at it as a problem, then it's a problem. Whereas if you look at it as a challenge, a creative challenge, it becomes a lot. 2, you set the tone. The environment in your home, the environment around you, the peace that you radiate in your environment is what your child is absorbing. You'll be surprised at yourself. You may have developed many new talents that you didn't know you had. And your child might have been the facilitator. He might have shown you a new way to do something, directed you to a new path. So I would look at it as a fabulous opportunity for also showing him how you are walking the talk, your own behaviors, your own things, how you are shielding your child while you're giving support and facing difficulty. He's getting these lessons. And for the child, he has a happy home and you're providing him with different opportunities. You'll be surprised how creativity comes. Just wait and watch. Allow him to flower or her.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving towards Shweta, what are your closing statements and suggestions for parents?
My closing statement would be, we're all already doing a lot. So please recognize that, because a happy parent is only going to be able to create a happy environment and a safe environment for the child. So you're doing a lot. It's okay not to have a minute-to-minute schedule for your child. Give them some time to be bored, because that's when their creativity is going to come out. So it's good to be bored. It's good for your kids to be bored. It's good for them not to have anything to do, because that's when they're going to become motivated.
Thanks. Thank you, Shweta. Moving towards Ruchi. Ruchi, what are your closing statements?
I would like to say, bond with your teen, bond with your child, become friends with them. and don't take your anxieties and your stress out on them. It's a great time now to ensure that you are able to get connected with them all over again. So take it at an easy pace and enjoy yourselves.
Thank you, Ruchi. Over to you, Dia. Your last closing statements.
Yeah, so I have a message for all the school owners and educators here. So this is a very good time. We are all in a summer break right now. So use this time and plan. I mean, move on to your online classes. Go for certain online training. There are so many free online trainings available. Equip yourself for online training. That is very important. So use this time, the summer break, and prepare yourself. And for parents, especially for mothers, I have a message saying that you are the backbone of the family. Your mental and emotional fitness is very, very important right now. Don't get overstressed. Don't get worked up. Take out some time for yourself, your meditation time, your time with a coffee cup, and all those kind of things. And you please give yourself some time. Don't get overstressed. And you have to take care of everything in the family. So that's my message for them.
Thank you, Dia, for this. With this, we come to an end of an amazing 1 hour session and first ever session of Chennai ECA chapter. I thank all 4 panelists for being here and really throwing lights on some of the challenging issues which we as parents are facing. Thank you so much. Let's hope to have a lot more ECA sessions happening in Chennai in coming months and years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.